This is a cheap copy of New Defenders 132. I had to buy this because I couldn't ever find my actual copy. This is the first issue of the series written fully by Peter Gillis, and I don't like his run on this title at all. I would maybe even say I hate his run on this title, but I always remembered his first issue being decent. This one, I remember it setting a good first impression, which he then didn't follow through on afterwards. This page here actually, in many ways, works as a metaphor for his run on New Defenders. I won't expand on that point, I'll leave it interpretable. There is this bloke wandering in the desert. He is lost. He has been walking for days. He is hungry and he is thirsty. And then he comes across a plant and he eats it, but it is a gamma irradiated plant, and so he dies straight away from poisoning. But then his body animates and continues to keep walking. We have the New Defenders not far away. Snowman, Wingman, Moongarden, Velcro, Etrigan the Demon, and Cloud Girl. We are 7 issues in since the book's official rebrand as the New Defenders. Remember 126? That was an issue that I read all those years ago, and I didn't think much of that one. But then, on reread, I found it to be a lot more better and more purposeful than I ever remembered. A nice counterpart to this issue in a few ways. Here we have Snowman being very not gay and clowning around with Cloud Girl. And let's unveil the opinion. I didn't like this. This time around, I didn't like this issue. The writing, this bit specifically, the way the characters are written is unnatural. I think that is something I would raise as a point about his run overall. There are characters in it, but none of them have characters. They are empty people that are sometimes put through subplots that make them appear to have characterization, but they don't have any whenever those subplots are not the focus. It's not just Snowman at the start. I found this bit to be ludicrous. The way they talk and openly state every bit of fact. What happens is that dead man shows up at their place and they invite him in, which is also stupid. And then it starts to mutate further. The gamma radiation makes it mutate. And Moongarden, the beautiful bald lady, she says, "I'll take care of this," then does absolutely nothing before getting knocked down. Much like when the team battles Man's Laughter in a few issues' time, they are embarrassingly rubbish at responding to an attack here. That would be fine if we were doing the angle of the team are unequipped, they are untrained, and they are unfamiliar with working together. That would be appropriate. That was what issue 126 did. But that is not what we have here. We just have each individual member taking turns and not succeeding. The same thing happens in the Man's Laughter issue. They all split up. They all went one-on-one with them, and they all improbably lost to him in different ways. It might sound like I'm just stubborn, and that I have a bee in my bonnet about the team not being depicted flatteringly. That's not the case. I don't mind them losing. It's that it's done quite poorly, and to the benefit of nothing besides padding an issue. It was done well in issue 126. And then, any victory feels the same. It also feels random and unearned even. We as readers have gained nothing from Etrigan and Cloud Girl suddenly destroying the monster here, beyond getting to see those heroes succeed where the others did not. Best bit of the issue is right here, bottom of this page. We have 2 panels between Etrigan and Dolly the housekeeper. Highlight of the issue right there. It's the only bit of emotion or heart in the issue. Maybe the whole run. Not entirely sure why the cat's housekeeper is still around after they moved out of the cat's brownstone and into Wingman's pad. I know her and Etrigan are a thing, but why would Wingman poach the cat's housekeeper? Little nitpicky things like that I try to avoid because it invalidates any actual criticism. People can just act as if me saying that the cat's housekeeper being around is equal to my point that these characters lack personality. The carcass continues to mutate and transform, and so Snowman does the one sensible thing in the issue. He freezes it in a giant slab of ice to prevent anything further. It is too late though, it has already spread. Wingman finds some plant mulch type shit growing on his back. And then Snowman, who looks about 40 years old here, he tries to contact Smurf, Doc Smurf, who isn't around at the minute. He is touring the colleges doing lectures. And he would be like the one member of the New Defenders who has the knowledge to better tackle this thing that they are dealing with. It changes further to explain we are dealing with gamma spores that are constantly growing and reforming. Every little bit of it starts growing more. Cut off one head, 2 more grow back style. This had a handy book entry in the 2011 Defenders handy book. I've shown it before, so I will add the extra information that Peter Gilbert does a sequel to this at some point later in his run. Don't know which issue or issues. Rather than complain about the absence of Doc Smurf in a story where he really belongs, I'll point out, since I did highlight the best part of the issue, here is the worst. Wingman's internal monologue. I will say, it is quite modest in comparison to Christopher Clairvoyant. I just don't like this. I don't know what to say. I actually think the story, the idea, has appeal. I like the gamma spore contamination angle, and I think it's actually the exact sort of thing I would want to see the Defenders, new or odd, up against for an issue. But Peter Gilbert, his script And even his plotting around it, I don't like it. The other thing is all but Snowman are utterly useless. Not just against what they are facing. In the issue, they are useless. I mean, they're not doing anything at all. Moongarden, God, her contribution to this issue, she really does nothing. She said she was going to, then got knocked out, and then we have this. And she is literally just standing around doing nothing. Velcro throws a sword around, Etrigan blasts energy in different directions. At least they did do something a bit earlier. But none of them are doing anything here, even notable to the script. What I think I've come to the conclusion of is that Peter Gilbert can't write teams. But he wrote Strike Force Moratori, and that was a team, wasn't it? So you are wrong. Yeah, it was a team where any of them could drop dead and not be in it anymore. Its Defenders shows that maybe that idea was in part because you can't quite juggle a full team of characters. Etrigan disappears in the middle of an issue, and then he is missing for several after that and nobody mentions him. Doc Smurf is always missing from issues when he is touring colleges. Moongarden is written out. Cloud Girl is written out. Etrigan is killed. The entire team die. I'm trying not to get too into my distaste for the run in general, but the way he utilises the team and how they nearly all don't do anything or have any personality, it made me think further. Maybe part of the reason Peter Gilbert can have one of these characters go totally irredeemably evil, maybe part of the reason he can have one become possessed for several issues after being missing for several more, maybe part of the reason one can turn out to be a fucking star nebula is because he never did anything with them before that. He never wrote a remarkable character that would make these sudden arse pulls or turns feel out of place or contradictory. In the end, Snowman, he saves the day. I don't know, maybe he is a bit too smart in this issue. Again, speaking to Peter Gilbert's lack of grasp of any of these characters, but I'll give it a pass because at least Snowman is something in this issue, unlike every other character who is nothing and does nothing or next to nothing. Next issue is Cutlass and Typhoon. One of the worst things ever printed next issue. Maybe you ate this review because I don't like a comic or a writer that you do. That's fine. I have no problem with people disagreeing. I have a problem with people clicking dislike and not actually engaging in any discussion. That is a pet peeve. But if you ate this review, if you think I went hard on this issue that you love, this is a raindrop next to the unrelenting storm of hatred I have for fucking Cutlass and Typhoon. I think Cutlass and Typhoon are hands down the worst characters in the Marvel Universe. I don't throw around hyperbole like that. I don't say things that matter of fact. but I really do consider Cutlass and Typhoon the worst thing in Marvel's comics. The letters column impressed me more than the comic. We have a response to a letter by Jim Tomatoes. He's not even writing the series anymore, and he's still replying to letters. This issue was all the more disappointing because, for whatever reason, I remembered it being good. I reckon I was only remembering the idea, which I do like, and maybe that Snowman was the MVP. And those are things even in this issue, which I didn't enjoy reading, I appreciated those parts. And Etrigan and Dolly, I liked that bit too. Think I ate everything else though. In my defence, I did like 2 Peter Gilbert stories so far this week. They were better than this, and I think I can identify every way in which they are better than this. My intention was to review 5 Peter Gilbert comics that I remembered liking, and the twist is so far at least one of them has not lived up to that. That's a 7 thumbs up from me. Smurf's absence in this issue is inexcusable for a few reasons. The first is that he is the one who turned the Defenders into the New Defenders. He wanted to have the team become a proper commitment and a real superhero team, and he even aspired to lead them. And then, throughout Peter Gilbert's run, he's not there. He's taken time off to do the college circuit. With the change in writers, it's okay that Peter Gilbert maybe doesn't want to do these things with Smurf. He wants to do other things. But it is unbelievably disingenuous to not provide an explanation for why Smurf has gone from taking charge and overhauling the team to the New Defenders now being secondary to public appearances. Then, this story it's so annoying because this is a story where Smurf is invaluable. You have Velcro running around doing nought, but Smurf is someone who has a purpose and a point in this story, a narrative purpose too. He can provide much of the exposition needed without it feeling entirely obvious. The only reason to not have him there is to exacerbate the situation, which maybe was the idea, but I don't see what happens as being unfeasible with Smurf there telling them or enforcing a proper quarantine. This could have been a great issue to even do what Peter Gilbert doesn't do. You have Smurf take the lead here with his scientific awareness of biological concerns, and then at the end, after he and Snowman have resolved things, after they have dealt with the threat, you have Smurf realise that he cannot lead the team because due to his position as leader, they were not quite prepared for this. If he hadn't been concerned with also leading the team at the time, then he could have more effectively contained the problem from the start. And that is your explanation for why Smurf often doesn't appear in the rest of your run, Peter Gilbert. You do that.